All right, so what I want to go over today is a real-world example of solving quadratic equations. So the problem is as follows. The profit function telling Gregorio how much money he will net for producing and selling X specialty umbrellas is given by P of X is equal to negative 0.00405 x squared plus 8.5x minus 100. What is Gregorio's loss if he doesn't sell any of these umbrellas he produces? How many umbrellas does he have to sell to break even? And how many does he have to sell to earn the greatest possible profit? So Gregorio's profit function is represented by a quadratic equation, and we're trying to solve this quadratic equation to figure out certain answers to these three problems. So the first problem is, what is Gregorio's loss if he doesn't sell any of the umbrellas he produces? Well, that's pretty simple. If this is his profit function and he's not selling any of the umbrellas that he produces, we just plug in x equals 0 because he hasn't sold any of the umbrellas he's produced into the profit function. So if we plug that in, so you can say p at 0, and then you just do 0.00405 x squared, but you're plugging in 0 for x, so that's going to be 0, because 0 times anything is 0, plus 8.5 times x, but x is 0, so it's also going to be 0, and you're just left with 100. So he's going to be at $100 loss if he doesn't sell any umbrellas because his profit function is given by this quadratic equation, and we're plugging in x equals 0 for the amount of umbrellas that he sold. So his profit is going to be negative $100, or he loses $100. So that's simple for the first problem. For the second question, how many does he have to sell to break even? We're still using this profit function because it's modeled by this quadratic equation, but he's breaking even. So what that's saying is the profit is going to be 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute in 0 for his profit, and then we're still going to have the same profit function. So we're just rewriting this. So now what we can do is we can solve this as a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. You can probably complete the square as well, but using the quadratic formula is going to be your go-to method because it's the easiest way to solve a quadratic equation where the numbers aren't whole numbers. So using the quadratic equation is, you say x equals negative b, and then you got plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. And what a is just the constant that's in front of this x squared term, so that's a, 0.00405. B is going to be 8.5, and then c is going to be negative 100. So they're just the constants in the quadratic equation. So now all we need to do is just plug these values into the quadratic formula to solve for x. And what x is going to give you is the number of umbrellas and where the profit function is going to equal 0. So where Gregorio breaks even at x number of umbrellas. And there's always two solutions to a quadratic equation. So there's going to be two solutions to where he breaks even. So we just need to plug these values into the quadratic formula. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 8.5 squared minus 4 times a 0.00405, and then times c, which is negative 100, and a is also negative, all over 2a. So all over 2 times negative 0.00405. And where we can see where we get two solutions is this plus or minus right here. So that's saying it's going to give x is going to be one number and then it's going to be another number. So you can separate it into two solutions. So the first solution is going to be the plus, the second solution is going to be the minus. And when you simplify these, you get x equals, it's about 12.34. And then for the second solution, you're going to get 2,000 exactly. So what this is saying is if Gregorio sells 12.34 umbrellas, that doesn't really make sense because you can't sell fractions of umbrellas, but around 12.34 umbrellas, his profit function is going to, his profit is going to be zero at that point, and it's also going to be zero at when he sells 2,000 umbrellas. So his costs are probably adding up too much. So those are the two values for X for the umbrellas where his profit is going to be zero. So now the last part. So the last thing we want to figure out is where his profit is maximized at. So this is what the profit function looks like if it's plotted. So it's negative, so that means it's going to open downwards. And where it's maximized is just going to be this point on the function. So you can see at X, which equals the number of umbrellas, when X equals 12, the profit is zero because on this Y axis it's zero. And then at 2,000 it's going to be zero as well. So what we want to figure out is what is this value of X on this function that is going to maximize this profit function, which is P of X. And you can see when he sells zero umbrellas, so this is zero, X equals zero, his profit is going to be 100. So that's what the graph would look like. So how to find this is pretty simple. You just need to find the vertex. And the formula for the vertex is X equals negative B over 2A. And negative B is just going to be, so B is 8.15. So X is going to be negative 8.15 divided by 2A, which is going to be 0.0081. And this is going to be negative 0.0081. So X is going to be equal to, so it's going to be approximately, so we're going to just say approximately 1,006 umbrellas. So at this point, it's going to be 1,006 umbrellas, and that's where his profit function is going to be maximized at this point, where the number of umbrellas he sells equals 1,006. And that's how you solve this problem.